Hello and welcome to this SUPboarder video where for the very first time we are going to be reviewing the SMIK SUP surf SUPs, and we're going to be looking at three different boards in this video: the Paradox, the Style Lord, and also the Hipster Twin in the pintail. Very exciting because SMIK are definitely making waves in the SUP surf market. A lot of people are stoked on these boards. We definitely enjoy riding them as well, and that's going to show throughout this review. So thank you very much for tuning in and your support of SUPboarder. Really hope that you do enjoy this video. If you do have any questions about any of the products we do list in this video, please do leave them in the comments below. First of all, let's just get a bit more of an understanding about the brand SMIK. Now, Scott McKercher, he is the head designer and the owner of the brand SMIK, and the goal for him was to produce boards that make you want to stay out in the surf longer because you're just having way too much fun on them. The boards are becoming more available worldwide as well, so you do look out for SMIKs in a retailer near you. Now, the goal of this video is to introduce you to some of the SMIK SUP shapes on the market, and also give you an understanding of if these boards are going to be right for you, and looking at their fittings, the dimensions of the boards that we have here in the studio, and also the dimensions of other boards available in these models. And then we're going to be taking a look at the pros, cons, value for money, and a few other key bits of information. Now, we're going to kick this video off looking at the SMIK Paradox, and the Paradox is a new shape for the UK market of SMIK. It has been loosely based from the Easy Rider that SMIK does that is available elsewhere, and we will be diving into the differences between them. But let's take a look at the dimensions of the Paradox. It is 10 feet 3 inches long, 32 inches wide, and comes in at 177 litres of volume. The weight of the board is 10.5 kilograms with the fins in, and the fin setup is a 2+1. The price of this board in the UK retails for £1,499. It's made of a premium construction with a lightweight EPS core and a full PVC bottom and wood sandwich deck. Has fabric inlays along the rails, and that makes it chip resistant. So the fittings we find on this board, there is a really comfortable handle, and the deck pad is super grippy. I really like the square crocodile texture deck pads from SMIK. The tail pad has a raised kicker at the back, and then we have the leash point behind that. On the bottom of the board, we'll just find that 2+1 setup of fin, so that US center fin box with FCS fin sides. Looking at the bottom shape on this board, we'll notice it's a slight single concave under the nose of the board, and that moves back into a slight rolled V, which gradually gets a little bit higher throughout the center of the board. And also we'll notice that it is kind of scooped with those double concaves throughout the bottom of the board toward the tail. The rocker on the board, it's fairly flat, but it's got a little upturn in the nose and also a little upturn in the tail, and that does help with the surfing performance. So comparing the Paradox to the Easy Rider from SMIK, and they are very different boards, although pretty much the same or similar dimensions. The Paradox is a much more refined version, and it's going to offer a little bit more performance on the wave. What we mean by that is that the nose and the tail is definitely thinned out a lot more than the Easy Rider. That's going to give you a bit more sensitivity and also reduce that swing weight when SUP surfing. And also the rails are quite refined, meaning that they do have a sharper edge and they are definitely more suited for SUP surfing rather than that flat water paddling. However, you can still do a lot of flat water paddling on this board with its size, with its width. It's very stable, and we're going to get into that very shortly. One thing that really, really surprised me when I first jumped on it, I actually went into surfing this board not knowing the dimensions. I actually thought it was 10 feet long. It was only when I was in the surf and after I'd caught a few waves that I realized this board was 10 feet 3 inches long. It really didn't feel like such a long board. Even when I'm looking at the style law, which is still 10 feet long, which we're going to speak about after this, it felt very similar to that kind of size. And I really noticed that even with that 32, quite a long board, it surfed really well, really smooth. The biggest thing for me was just how much glide and paddle speed that I had. I could zip around the lineup. You can see there were quite a few people out on this day, so I was zipping in and out through them. The board just felt really easy to control and maneuver and get around and surf on the wave. And I really think that's what the distributors in the UK for SMIK were after in a board for the UK waves. You can definitely still nose ride this board as well, so you can surf it like a longboard. It's not just a big board. Really, one of the biggest highlights for me was just the weight of the board. It's quite a lightweight board for its size compared to a lot of other surf SUPs on the market at 10.5 kilos. You know, sometimes you get boards that are 12, 13, 14 kilograms at this size, and that really makes a difference to how well you can turn it. And also, especially if you're that beginner rider and maybe you're not, you know, have such a big frame or strength to carry this board or even to maneuver it, having that less weight is going to be able to allow you to, step on the board, do some turns, and carry it down to the water a lot easier as well. I think one addition that could make this board more versatile would be the addition of some leashing points at the front of the board to create that bungee system. You could remove the strings or the cords and you could surf it without the bungee on there. But I think as a flat water board, especially if it's trying to be sold as kind of that crossover, the ability to store gear on there, I think it would be a great addition. That was the only kind of feedback we had about this board. Other than that, a really great board, and it's going to suit those riders who are getting into stand-up paddleboard surfing, who are at that weight range of, between 85 and 95, maybe even up to 100 kilograms. And then if you are that beginner, higher like level beginner or intermediate level, if you are a heavier rider, say, that 100, 105, 110 kilogram rider, you could easily jump on the Paradox and have a great fun surf session. It's going to be able to turn very easily for you. You can walk the board. It's going to have that great stability and great glide as well. So definitely a board I would recommend for people getting into SUP surfing in the UK and wanting a board that can kind of cross over into a bit of flat water paddling, give you a nice glide, but you can also take it in the surf. Moving over to the SMIK Style Lord. Now this board is definitely more suited to performance longboard surfing. So if you are looking to get into SUP longboard, consider this one. The dimensions on the one we have in this review, it is 10 feet long, 30 inches wide, and 135 liters of volume. The weight is 9 kilograms. It has a 2+1 fin setup, and the price in the UK, it retails for £1,899. The SMIK Style Lord, it does come in different sizes as well. The boards are constructed using a lightweight EPS core and a full PVC biaxial carbon wrap. And there is a resin-infused color over the rails that offers that extra chip resistance. Fittings on the board, we have a nice big comfortable handle for carrying, and it is weighted quite well. The deck pad, like I've said before, really like it, nice and grippy, moves back into that raised kicker at the tail. We have the leashing point behind that, and on the bottom of the board, there is the 2+1 fin setup, US center fin box with those FCS sides. There's actually quite a lot happening with the bottom shape and design of the Style Lord. We'll notice that as we move back in the bottom shape, it has that single concave and then moves back into quite a big V throughout the standing area. And that moves back into a V through the tail as well. However, the biggest thing that we'll notice on this board is the beveled rails off to the side. You can see how that rail edge drops away. What this does, it creates a narrower platform for you to be standing on, so it feels like when you're up on the nose that you're actually nose riding a narrower board, and that's really what it did feel like as well. And we'll get into how that nose riding feels in a moment. Looking at the rocker line of this board, it is quite a progressive rocker. You have a little bit of rocker in the nose and quite a little bit of rocker in the tail as well, so it is really screaming a bit more of that performance longboarding style, but still at that 10 feet of length, you get great glide. I'd really like to touch on the outline shape of this board because it really does need to be highlighted. This kind of wide nose area here just gives you great stability, even if you're walking up the board for a nose ride or if you're standing waiting for waves. This bulk up here, it gives you that confidence to be able to paddle with stability, move around on the board, and just kind of do everything with ease. So it's very forgiving with that wider nose. But then as we kind of move back behind the handle, it really pulls in to quite a narrow and really thin tail as well. And that just gives it that added performance. So really you are blending the more traditional stability side of SUP longboarding with the progressive performance side as well with that tail. And it works. It really does work out on the water. I love nose riding this board because it's so easy to get up to the nose with that little bit of extra nose lift and that rocker at the front of the board. It makes walking up to the board just that little bit easier because you aren't going to nosedive as easily as you would have on a flatter rockered board. And there are quite a lot of flat rockered longboards on the market. So, that beginner rider learning to nose ride, absolutely amazing board for that because it's teaching you to get up further toward the nose, and then you will be able to hang five as well eventually. However, what I did notice is when you were up on the nose, it did kind of stall a little bit, and I think that's just down to that rocker, as we've mentioned before. Having that flatter rocker is going to give you more speed through those critical sections and when you are nose riding. Stepping back on the tail, and it just felt smooth and easy, and I love that performance tail that it has. That kind of squash tail gives you that real great forgiveness, kind of a little bit of liveliness, but also can feel a bit loose at times as well. So although you've got quite a lot of swing weight up the nose here with that wider nose, that tail really kind of pulls it back into that performance shape and gives you that agility and progression on the wave too. So you really can cross everything over. I had great fun surfing this board, quite sensitive when stepping back there too. So those beginner riders are going to really notice that you'll be able to really turn the board from the tail. So moving into some of the cons that we found about this board, well, there are none really. We set you up for that one. And I'm not saying that it's the most perfect board out there on the market, but I'm just saying that there's nothing that we'd change, or I feel there's nothing that holds this board back from really being what it is, because it gives you good nose riding, it gives you that flexibility to walk up there, it gives you good performance off the tail. It's just a really good all-round longboard, and that's what I really like about this. It's not going to suit everyone out there on the market, and I think the people that it will suit though are those beginner to intermediate riders looking to get better at SUP longboarding, wanting to progress their skills. But maybe you've been surfing something like the Paradox, a little bit bigger, and want to step down into a more performance longboard. The Style Lord is definitely going to be the one for you. The weight range of riders, if you are at that beginner level, I'd suggest on this 30-inch wide size, maybe around that 80, 85, 90 kilogram weight range. But then you could drop down to the 29 as a lighter weight rider, or you go up to the 32 inches of width as that kind of 100 kilogram rider. And then if you're at that more intermediate level, you can obviously go a little bit heavier in weight because these boards are going to be able to handle that. So getting into the SMIK Hipster Twin in the pintail, the board dimensions we have in the studio, it is 7 feet 10 inches long, 29.5 inches wide, and 109 litres in volume. Weighs in at 7 kilograms, tail width is 17.75 inches, has that 2+1 setup, but surfed as that twin fin and a little trailer. Now the price on the SMIK Hipster Twin, it does differ depending on the construction, but the cheaper construction retails for £1,449, and then you can step it up in the carbon version. These boards also come in different sizes within the Hipster Twin range. The construction of these boards, there is an EPS foam core with the wood layers at a cheaper price point, or there is that full PVC and biaxial carbon wrap around that lightweight EPS core. The fittings on this SMIK Hipster Twin, we just have that nice big comfy handle again. Deck pads are really grippy as we like and have mentioned before. Leashing point at the back and flipping it over, that 2+1 setup, FCS side fins with a US center fin box. This board is surfed as that twin fin, so bigger side fins and that smaller trailing fin. Looking at the outline shape on the SMIK Hipster Twin, we'll notice that it does have quite a nice wide standing area on the board and a little bit up toward the nose as well, and then pulls in with that little flyer toward the tail, so you're getting that narrower tail outline that's going to help with performance on the wave. Has a single concave underneath the nose, a double throughout the middle, and then a V out through the tail. So out in the water, this board, it's just incredible, really. It feels super easy, it's really stable, it does everything you want it to, and it does it really well. The addition of those twin fins, it makes it quite sensitive, so no matter where you step on the board, you're going to get that feedback and reaction from it, which I quite like because it's going to really help your surfing, and no matter where you stand, you're going to be able to maneuver the board. It did place very, very, very well in the SUPboarder Pro Quiver Killer test that we've just done. I'd highly recommend checking that out up on SUPboarder Pro because there's a ton of information about this board in that video as well. The biggest feedback that we had from everybody riding it was just that it felt super smooth. Smooth riding it, smooth turning, smooth paddling. It was just a very great all-round board. And it's definitely going to be a great board to have in your quiver because it suits a lot of different types of waves as well. A couple of drawbacks that we did find to it though was that with those kind of big side fins and a very small trailing fin, is that it didn't paddle in a straight line extremely well, so you had to be on it with your kind of J stroke or with your technique to be able to keep it paddling in a straight line, especially when paddling for waves. I think it's quite an easy fix though. You could move that center fin back or get a slightly bigger trailing fin. The other thing we did find with it though is surfing really big waves or kind of waves that are overhead. Although we didn't get those conditions, I personally have a Hipster Twin that I've been riding and I've taken it out in some pretty big conditions, and I find that just that wider outline doesn't serve it very well for those bigger waves and those steeper, hollower waves as well when it's big. Anything from kind of, a foot overhead, about this high, anything underneath that, even if it's steep, even if it's hollow and fast, it is amazing. So not a big wave board, but a board that's going to work in lots and lots of different conditions. Who's this board going to suit? Well, it's definitely going to suit those riders looking for something that is really nice and stable when paddling, but also surfs very, very easily. And that is quite a lot of you out there, to be fair. I know I've been recommending this board to a lot of people riding in on SUPboarder Pro and Ask the Experts, and I'm probably going to recommend it to a lot more people because it is such a great board. For the 710 size weight range of around that 75 to 90 kilograms, I think within that's going to be great. If you are at that higher level, you could push up to that 90, 95. Do make sure you have a look at the other sizes of the Hipster Twin in that model, because there are tons of different sizes in different volumes and widths as well to suit your weight and size. Lastly, we'll move into the value for money of all of these boards, and I'm going to bundle them all together because they are all great value for money. They sit kind of just under that premium price point of a lot of other top brands, but you're getting a top quality premium product from SMIK, and they are lightweight boards. They're going to last quite a long time if you look after them. I enjoy riding them. Everyone else at SUPboarder enjoys riding them. A lot of other people in the world enjoy riding them. So I know we're going to hear a lot more about SMIK in the future, and if you are able to get your hands on a SMIK, do test it out. Do make sure you get the right size in the model that you do choose as well, because that's really going to help you with your progression and your fun out on the water. And that's what it all comes back to. Scotty McKercher from SMIK, he wants you to have fun out in the water. These boards are going to give you that. Really want to thank you very much for tuning into this SUPboarder review of the SMIK Surf SUPs. Like we said at the start, if you have any questions about any of these boards or any questions about SMIK, leave them in the comments below. We'll happily get back to you and give you some advice. Thanks again. We look forward to seeing you on another SUPboarder review very soon.